Welcome to this episode of Cash and Keys, Mastering the Art of Business and Estate Prosperity, hosted by estate and business planning attorney Larry Parman. Mr. Parman is the founder of Parman Easterday, a law firm that practices exclusively in the areas of estate planning, elder law, and business succession planning. He is the author of The Straight Shooter's Guide to Estate Planning and Economic Dominoes, a review of the economic cycle in the U.S. In these brief sessions, Mr. Parman will share information and insights on estate planning, elder law challenges, and how to successfully transition your business. Plus, there may be a few nuggets on other topics that will entertain and surprise you. Here's Larry Parman.
Hello, Larry Parman here. So here's a headline I picked up today. IRS postpones required withdrawals from many inherited IRAs. Now this is important because there's a lot of confusion about inherited IRAs. We get a lot of questions about this. So I'm going to take a few minutes and just trace the old law and the new law, which leads us to where we are today. And the real question comes down to, if you inherit an IRA, when do you have to take the money out? By when do you have to empty that account? So prior to 2019, virtually everyone that inherited an IRA could stretch the distribution out over their life expectancy. They could empty that account on a periodic basis over their life expectancy. That was powerful because if your investment growth was greater than your required minimum distribution, that account balance could continue to grow during your lifetime and leave something for your children or someone else. That would also be true of either a spouse who was entitled to a spousal rollover, or a child or grandchild, or anyone who inherited an IRA. That's the old law. Life expectancy, payout, called a stretch. Then in 2019, the law changed, and that's where we had this 10-year rule. Life expectancy distributions and the stretch, gone. Now you have to take distributions out over your life, over a 10-year period, not the life expectancy. There were a few exceptions to that. Chronically disabled people, chronically ill people, spouses were still entitled to the rollover and the life expectancy distribution. But what about the rest of us? Well, the rest of us had to take the distribution out within a 10-year period. Now, there was some confusion on that because some people thought, well, okay, great, I'll just defer taking anything out until the end of the 10 years, and allow that account to grow in value, and I'll just pay the tax in one lump sum whenever it comes out. Because remember, for any IRAs, any distribution you receive is 100% taxable at ordinary income tax rates of the beneficiary. So some people said, well, I just won't take anything. I don't need the money. Cash flow wise, I'm good. Other people said, you know what? I kind of like to take some, but I might want to take some after 2 years, let it grow a while, take another distribution at the end of 7 years, kind of a pick and choose method. Well, the IRS comes along and says, guess what? That may not work. You may not have a pick and choose option, because if you inherit that IRA from someone who is already taking required minimum distributions, then you have to take annual distributions as well during that 10-year period. You can't wait to the end of 10 years and take it all at once. Well, there are a lot of complaints about this. I mean, who does that rule apply to? Does it apply to those people who inherited an IRA from people already taking required minimum distributions, or everybody? A lot of complaints. So the last couple of years, the IRS has said, okay, if you don't take a distribution until we get these rules clarified, we're not going to charge you a penalty for failing to take the distribution that the law says and we say you should have taken. Okay, does that make sense? So no penalty. Now, the benefit of that is if you don't need to take the distribution, you don't. Penalty, by the way, is 25% of what the distribution should have been had they enforced that rule. But right now, they're not enforcing that rule. And the new headline today is they're not going to enforce that rule again in 2024. So people who thought they might be subject to a penalty if they did not take the distribution, can now rest somewhat at ease. No penalty if you don't take the distribution through the end of 2024. We have no idea what 2025 is going to look like. We'll talk about that later. Now, this raises another question. What are the rules, or what rules apply to people who inherit an inherited IRA? Well, that's a topic for a different discussion. We'll come back and talk about that in a separate video. But in the meantime, just wanted you to know the new headline is no penalty for people who thought they would have to take a distribution in 2024 if you do not do so. No penalty for not taking the withdrawal. So that's good news. That gives people some flexibility. You can still do it if you want, of course, but it gives people some flexibility for those who don't either need the money or want to leave it in the inherited IRA for future growth. Okay, more on that later. If you have calls about it, phone number is 405-843-6100, 405-843-6100. Email info at parmanlaw.com, info@parmanlaw.com. Happy to visit with you anytime about this. Talk to you soon again. Take care and have a great day.
If you would like to learn more about creating an estate plan for your family, protecting your assets if you have to go into a nursing home, or transitioning your business, call 405-843-6100 or send an email to info@parmanlaw.com. That's 405-843-6100 and info@parmanlaw.com. Thank you.